The sun hung low in the sky, casting a burnt orange glow over the desolate landscape. Dust swirled like ghosts in the wind, choking the life out of what once was a vibrant valley. Charlotte Abbott stood at the edge of her father's ranch, hands on her hips, squinting into the horizon. "Looks like we ain't getting any rain this season, Billy," she muttered, glancing down at the chestnut mare at her side. Billy nickered softly, as if she understood the hopelessness that loomed around them. Charlotte scratched behind her ears, feeling the familiar warmth of the mare's coat beneath her fingers. "I reckon we're in for a rough ride, huh?" She sighed, her heart heavy with worry. This ranch had been in her family for generations, but the drought had turned it into a graveyard of dreams. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the air, startling Billy. What was that? Charlotte's pulse quickened, and she felt the mare's muscles tense beneath her. What remained was possibility. The hills had been quiet too long, as if the valley held its breath, waiting for the next disaster to strike. "You stay close," she whispered, scanning the shadows that crept along the ground. The wind picked up, carrying with it a faint smell of smoke. Charlotte turned, her heart racing. "It ain't just the drought now," she said, shaking her head. "I can smell fire." Billy stomped her front hoof in agitation, eyes wide and alert. Charlotte felt a swell of anxiety rise in her chest. What if it's the old barn? She breathed, panic creeping into her voice. "We can't lose the barn, too, not after everything." They hurried towards the barn, the crunch of gravel beneath their boots mingling with the rustle of leaves. Just as they reached the entrance, a gust of wind blew through, carrying the acrid scent of burning wood. "Damn it!" Charlotte swore under her breath. "We don't have much time." Inside, the atmosphere was suffocating. Dust hung thick in the air, and the shadows danced along the walls like phantoms. The old wooden beams creaked ominously above her head. "We have to check the hayloft," she instructed, her voice wavering. "That's where the flames will spread first." As they climbed the wooden ladder, the rungs felt rough beneath her palms, each step an unwelcome reminder of the weight pressing down on her heart. She pushed open the loft door, her breath hitching in her throat at the sight that greeted her. A flicker of orange flame licked at the edges of the stacked bales. "Not here!" Charlotte cried, rushing forward. "Billy, stay back!" The mare whinnied nervously, her powerful body trembling, and Charlotte could feel her own fear mirrored in the horse's wide eyes. "Don't you dare panic now!" she called out, trying to calm them both. She grabbed a pitchfork and began to stab at the bales, pulling them apart to douse the flames with loose hay. "Come on, we can beat this!" Her arms ached, sweat dripping down her face, but she fought back the desperation gnawing at her insides. "Help me!" The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across the Anderson ranch. Timothy stepped out of the barn, wiping sweat from his brow. "Billy, you ready?" he called, peering into the corral. Billy, a striking paint horse, stood with his head low, ears flicking back and forth. The evening air smelled of dust and hay, the earthy scent grounding Timothy amidst the turmoil. He moved closer to the corral, feeling the warmth radiating from the horse's powerful body. "I reckon we ought to check the water line again." As Timothy approached, Billy nickered softly, shifting his weight in anticipation. I know," Timothy chuckled, reaching out to stroke the horse's neck. "You're keen for a ride, huh?" He mounted up, the saddle creaking under his weight. Billy took a few eager steps forward, ready to escape the confines of the corral. "Whoa there, easy boy!" Timothy pulled gently on the reins. The last thing he needed was a wild gallop before they even set off. He settled into the familiar rhythm of riding, but the worry gnawed at him. The drought hadn't just sapped the land, it had drained his spirit. Thoughts of Mountain Crest Corporation's looming threat weighed heavily on his mind, but Billy seemed to sense it too. As they rode through the empty pastures, the horse's strides were steady, keeping him grounded. "Just us against the world, huh?" Timothy said, hoping for a flicker of hope to spark inside him. But the bitter reality was undeniable. Each ranch he passed bore witness to despair, fences falling apart, abandoned houses with broken windows, and the sounds of nothing. No cattle, no laughter, just the whisper of the wind. Billy halted suddenly, tail flicking, as if he'd picked up on something Timothy couldn't see. "What is it, boy?" Timothy asked, leaning forward in the saddle. The horse backed away from a cluster of dead trees, eyes wild. "Easy now," Timothy soothed. "I'm right here." He dismounted, feeling the rough ground beneath his boots, and approached cautiously. As he did, Billy let out a low whinny, nostrils flaring. Then Timothy saw it, a shimmering reflection in the dry earth, a small depression where moisture lingered beneath the surface. "No way!" he breathed, excitement coursing through him like wildfire. "You found something, didn't you?" But just as hope ignited, a distant sound shattered the stillness. Horse hooves. The ground trembled beneath Timothy's feet, and he turned sharply. "Billy, we gotta go!" A group of men on horseback appeared, dark silhouettes against the setting sun. They came fast, cutting through the dusk like an arrow through the air. "Timothy!" one of them shouted, and dread pooled in Timothy's gut. "Get back to the ranch!" he yelled to Billy, who shifted nervously beside him. The horse's muscles tensed, ready to bolt at a moment's notice. "Are you going to sell or fight, Tim?" Another rider sneered, his tone mocking. Timothy didn't recognize him, but the others were local ranchers, men he thought he could trust. Now, it felt like a betrayal. "Don't do this!" The barn door swung open with a creak that echoed through the stillness. Charlotte Abbott stepped inside, her boots crunching on the hay scattered across the floor. "Show yourself!" she called, her voice firm but trembling. Silence enveloped her like a heavy blanket, the only sound the soft rustle of the wind outside and the distant call of a hawk. Then, a flicker of movement caught her eye. In the far corner of the barn stood Dusty, a wild mare with eyes wide and fearful, nostrils flaring. Charlotte took a cautious step forward. "Hey there, girl. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." She extended her hand slowly, palm up, trying to show she meant no harm. Dusty shifted nervously, her body tense. "I just want to help you," Charlotte murmured, but doubt gnawed at her heart. Fear won that round. She had been betrayed before. Trust was a fragile thing, hard-earned but easily shattered. Charlotte could feel her pulse quicken as memories flooded back, the feeling of loss, the betrayal by those she had once called friends. "I need you to trust me," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Dusty backed into the corner, eyes wild with panic. One wrong move, and she'd bolt, or worse. Charlotte took a deep breath, grounding herself in the dusty barn air, heavy with the scent of hay and leather. "Please," she pleaded softly. "Let me show you I mean it." She took another step, half expecting the mare to flee. "You're safe here, I promise." To her surprise, Dusty stopped moving. The mare flicked her ears back, listening, processing. Charlotte felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. "See, I ain't gonna hurt you. You're not alone anymore." As she edged closer, Dusty hesitated but didn't retreat. Charlotte's heart raced. Perhaps this was the moment. Perhaps this was her second chance. "Let me help," she said again, reaching out as Dusty sniffed the air, curiosity overtaking fear. "I can't do this alone, and neither can you." Then, just as quickly, the mare turned away, pacing the small space with quick, nervous steps. Charlotte could feel her own frustration mounting, a familiar ache in her chest. "Why won't you let me in?" she asked, voice shaking. Suddenly, a loud bang from outside startled Dusty. The mare jumped, eyes wide with fright. Charlotte's heart dropped. "No! Don't go!" she shouted. But Dusty was already bolting for the barn door. Charlotte's hand flew to the latch, desperate to close it before the mare could escape. "Stay, please!" The latch clicked shut just in time. Dusty skidded to a halt, nostrils flaring, body trembling. Charlotte breathed heavily, sweat forming on her brow. "It's all right, girl. We're safe in here." She could feel the tension in the air, thick and heavy, as they both stood there in the shadow of the barn. "Okay," she said, softly now, trying to calm her own racing heart. "Just breathe with me." She exhaled slowly, allowing the warmth of the barn, the comfort of the space, to envelop them both. "You're not alone, not anymore." The barn door creaked open, revealing a space cloaked in shadows. Charlotte Abbott hesitated, her heart racing. "Hello? Is anyone there?" she called, her voice echoing against the rough wooden beams. The silence hung heavy, oppressive. She shifted her weight, her fingers brushing the cold metal of the rifle slung over her shoulder. "Come on out," she urged, her voice firmer this time. Dust particles danced in the slants of fading sunlight as she stepped further inside, the familiar scent of hay and leather wrapping around her like an old friend. The barn felt abandoned, yet Charlotte sensed something, a presence lurking just beyond her sight. With every creak of the floorboards beneath her, the air grew thicker, heavier. "Billy," she whispered, scanning the corners. "It's just me. You don't have to be afraid." Then she heard it, a soft shuffle, a nervous snort. Charlotte turned, her breath hitching. In the far corner stood Billy, the paint horse, his eyes wide with uncertainty. "Oh, sweet boy," she murmured, taking a cautious step forward. Billy backed away, pressing against the wooden wall. His powerful body trembled, and Charlotte felt her heart sink. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said gently. I'm just like you. Lost." She reached out slowly, palm extended. Billy's ears flicked back, his wary gaze fixed on her. "Just give me a chance," she pleaded, fighting the urge to retreat. "We both need each other, you know. No more being alone." She could sense the internal war raging within him. Trust didn't come easy for a horse that had seen the worst of humanity. Charlotte understood that all too well. She had been burned by trust herself. "You're not the only one with scars," she whispered, a lump forming in her throat. In that moment, she remembered the stories her father used to tell about the bond between a horse and its rider. "They can sense our fear, our pain, but they also feel our hope," he'd said. Billy took a hesitant step closer, his breath warm against her palm. "That's it," she encouraged. "I won't hurt you, I promise." The barn was silent, save for the soft rustle of hay and the distant wind whistling through the cracks. Charlotte reached out again, fingertips brushing the soft muzzle of the horse. "You're safe now." But just as hope flickered in her chest, there was a loud crash outside. The barn trembled as something, or someone, slammed into the wall. Billy reared back, eyes wild. "No!" Charlotte shouted, her heart racing. She clutched the rifle tighter. "Stay back!" Hoofbeats thundered outside. Voices, sharp and angry, yelled indistinctly. Charlotte's gut twisted. "They're coming," she breathed, adrenaline surging. "We need to hide!" Billy bolted to the farthest corner of the barn, panic-stricken. "No, not like this." She needed him to trust her. She needed him to understand. "Billy, wait!" she cried. "I won't let them take you." With trembling hands, Charlotte scanned for an escape. The barn's shadows felt deeper now, more claustrophobic. The sun was setting behind the mountains, casting long shadows over the Anderson ranch. Timothy stood at the edge of the dry creek bed, his heart heavy with dread. "Billy," he called, his voice echoing in the stillness. "Show me what you know." The paint horse trotted over, his intelligent eyes locked onto Timothy's, as if sensing the weight of his doubts. Timothy stroked Billy's neck, feeling the warmth beneath his fingers. "You've got to help me, old friend. I can't let this ranch die." Billy nickered softly, nuzzling Timothy's shoulder, offering comfort when he needed it most. Timothy's thoughts raced. He remembered his father's words. Trust the horse. Trust the land. But how could he trust a land that had given them nothing but dust and despair? With a determined breath, he mounted Billy and let the horse lead. Doubt crept in like a shadow. They crossed barren pastures where tufts of dead grass crunched underfoot, the air thick with the scent of sun-baked earth and stale hay. The stillness felt oppressive, and each heartbeat echoed in Timothy's ears. Billy moved with purpose, guiding Timothy toward the foothills. They climbed steadily, and Timothy felt the weight of expectation settle like a stone in his gut. "What if we don't find anything?" he murmured, fear creeping into his voice. "What if this is all for nothing?" Billy halted suddenly, turning his head back to look at Timothy. Those dark eyes seemed to pierce through his doubts. "All right," Timothy said, "show me." They entered a narrow canyon between rugged rock walls, where shadows danced as the last rays of sunlight slipped away. Dust motes floated in the fading light, and an uneasy silence enveloped them. Timothy dismounted and surveyed their surroundings. "What do you see, boy?" Billy pawed at the ground, his powerful legs churning up dirt. Timothy knelt beside him, heart racing with anticipation. "What's here?" he whispered. "Show me." As Billy scratched at the surface, Timothy's fingers brushed against damp soil beneath the dry crust. "Wait a minute," he whispered, disbelief blooming in his chest. He dug deeper, pushing aside loose stones and dried leaves, his pulse quickening. With each handful of earth he removed, the dampness spread. Then it hit him, a rush of hope, bright and overwhelming. "There's water here," he shouted, grinning broadly. "Billy, you did it!" The horse whinnied softly, as if to acknowledge the discovery. The air suddenly felt electric with possibility, a stark contrast to the desolate valley below. Timothy sank to his knees, fingers digging deeper into the cool, moist earth. "This is it," he breathed. "You found it!" But then doubt crept in again. How could this be real? Would it hold up? What if it was just a trickle? "What if it dries up?" he said, swallowing hard. "What if—" Billy stepped closer, nudging Timothy with his muzzle, grounding him in that moment. "You're right," Timothy admitted, looking into those wise eyes. "I can't give up." Then a rumbling sound echoed through the canyon. Timothy's stomach dropped. "What's that?" The barn door creaked open, and Timothy squinted into the dim light. "Billy!" he called, his voice echoing against the weathered wood, but the silence hung heavy, thick, like dust in the summer air. Suddenly, a soft whicker broke through the quiet. Timothy rushed inside, finding Billy pacing nervously in his corral, his intelligent eyes darting from side to side. "What's wrong, boy?" Timothy said, concern creeping into his heart. The horse stopped, ears pricked forward, his powerful frame taut, as if he sensed something lurking just beyond the barn. Timothy stepped closer, brushing his hand down Billy's neck. "What is it?" he whispered. Billy nuzzled Timothy's shoulder, his warm breath mingling with the scent of hay and leather. In that moment, Timothy felt a flicker of hope, a reminder that he wasn't truly alone. "You know something, don't you?" With a determined snort, Billy pawed the ground, urging Timothy forward. He knew the horse was trying to show him something important, but doubt gnawed at Timothy. The weight of his family's ranch lay heavy on his shoulders. He thought of the looming threat from Mountain Crest Corporation, of the offers that could solve his financial troubles but would cost him everything his father built. "You're right," Timothy breathed, swallowing hard. "We have to find the water." Billy whinnied softly, as if affirming their mission. Timothy's heart raced. This was more than just a chance for survival. It was a chance to reclaim his father's legacy. But a question nagged at him. What if they found nothing? What if this was all for naught? He shook his head, trying to clear the doubts. "Let's go," he said, pulling on his old leather boots and grabbing a saddle from the hook on the wall. The familiar scent of leather was comforting, a reminder of days spent riding into the sunset with his father. As Timothy saddled Billy, the horse stood still, eyes trained on him with unwavering trust. "I reckon we got some work to do," he said, tightening the girth. "Show me the way, Billy." The horse shifted eagerly, ready to lead him into the unknown. They rode out of the corral and into the vast emptiness of the ranch, the crunch of gravel beneath Billy's hooves punctuating the stillness. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the barren land. Timothy felt a tug of anxiety in his stomach as he surveyed the desolation. A valley that had once thrived now lay dying. Billy navigated the familiar terrain with ease, moving toward the foothills. Timothy felt the wind whip against his face, carrying with it whispers of forgotten secrets hidden in the earth. "There's got to be something here," he murmured to himself, determination flooding his veins. They climbed higher, the ground becoming rocky and uneven. Timothy's thoughts raced. Could they really find the water his father spoke of? A sudden pang of grief hit him. He wished his father were here to see this, to guide him. Then he remembered the letter, the words of trust passed down in a shaky hand. "Trust the horse." The barn door swung open. Charlotte's hand moved to her rifle. "Show yourself," she called, her voice steady despite the unease churning in her gut. The valley was quiet, the kind of quiet that made her skin prickle. Rusty, her newly acquired paint horse, shifted nervously in his stall, his dark eyes wide with fear. She stepped inside, the musty smell of hay mixing with the sweat from her brow. "It's just me, boy," she soothed, holding out her hand. "You know I won't hurt you." He pawed at the ground, eyes darting toward the open door. "I reckon it ain't just us, is it?" Charlotte murmured, glancing out at the sun dipping below the horizon, casting long shadows over the dry pasture. The golden light filtered through the barn slats, illuminating specks of dust dancing in the air. The eerie silence was unsettling, and Charlotte felt it deep in her bones. The threat of mountain crest loomed closer. Just yesterday, she'd overheard some of the townsfolk talking about the company's plans to buy up the ranches. "They're going to take everything," one of them had said. "Ain't nothing left for us if we don't fight." Rusty leaned closer, nuzzling her palm with his soft muzzle, grounding her in the moment. She closed her eyes for a heartbeat, letting the warmth of his presence wash over her. "You've been through hell too, haven't you?" She stroked his neck, feeling the tension in his muscles. "We're both scared, but we can't let them win." Just then, a rustling noise came from outside, echoing against the barn's walls. Charlotte's heart raced. She chose to stay. "What was that?" she whispered. Rusty backed away, pressing himself into the corner, eyes wild. One wrong move, and he'd bolt. Or worse, he'd crash through the fragile wood, risking injury. Hey, it's okay," she said, moving cautiously toward him. "Trust me." But trust had burned her before, leaving scars deeper than the ones on Rusty's flanks. The memories clawed at her mind, threatening to drown her in despair. The wind howled, whistling through the cracks in the barn, carrying with it the scent of dust and impending rain. Charlotte reached out again, her fingers brushing against Rusty's neck. "We've got each other. That's got to count for something, right?" As if sensing her resolve, Rusty turned his head, staring into her eyes with a depth that shook her. He was a powerful creature, and here he was, trusting her when she felt so lost. "Together," she whispered. "We'll face whatever comes." "I promise." Just then, hoofbeats thundered in the distance. Charlotte's heart dropped. No, she muttered under her breath. The sound grew louder, racing toward the barn like a storm. "We gotta be ready, boy," Rusty snorted, ears flicking back, the tension rising between them. She could feel his fear, taste it in the air like bitter smoke. Her grip tightened on her rifle. "We'll show 'em what we're made of," she vowed, though her voice trembled with uncertainty. The barn door creaked as it swung slightly, revealing a sliver of fading light. The barn door swung open, and Timothy stepped inside, squinting against the dim light. "Billy," he called, his voice echoing off the dusty walls. The paint horse stood in the corner, eyes wide and alert, as if sensing trouble. Timothy approached slowly, heart pounding. "Easy there, buddy," he said, extending a hand. But Billy backed away, muscles tensing like a coiled spring. "I'm not here to hurt you. Just want to talk." A soft whinny escaped Billy's lips, and Timothy could see the remnants of fear dancing in his eyes. "You ain't got to be scared of me. I'm your friend." Yet Timothy felt that old, familiar knot of doubt twisting in his stomach. Would he ever truly connect with this horse? Would they ever bridge the gap of silence that seemed to stretch endlessly between them? He took a step closer, but the horse darted to the other side of the stall. "Come on now, you ain't got to run from me. I'm just trying to figure things out, same as you." The scent of hay filled the air, mingling with the musk of sweat and leather. Timothy could almost taste the tension that hung between them, thick as the dust swirling in the sunlight. Billy pawed the ground, each stomp echoing like a drumbeat of distress. "I know it feels rough, but we gotta trust each other. It's the only way we can make it." With a deep breath, Timothy reached for the rope on the post and walked toward Billy again, determined. "Trust me, boy. Just let me in." He hesitated, wrestling with the haunting memories of his father's final words, words he'd clung to like a lifeline. Could he truly believe in something so intangible? In a moment of vulnerability, he whispered, "I think we both need to heal, and we can do it together." Billy stopped moving and turned his gaze towards Timothy, uncertainty flickering in those intelligent eyes. The air thickened, a palpable energy crackling between them. Timothy felt it. They were on the cusp of something monumental. Then came the faint sound of hoofbeats outside, the approach of riders. His heart raced. "Not now," he muttered, glancing toward the barn door. "I ain't got time for this." But the sound grew louder, a cacophony of shouts and laughter mingling with the clopping of horses' hooves. Timothy's resolve hardened. "We can't let them take what's ours, Billy. We've come too far." "Show yourself, Timothy," a voice rang out, mocking and brash. He recognized it instantly, Colton's voice, dripping with arrogance. "We know you're in there." Billy whinnied sharply, a warning that sent a shiver down Timothy's spine. The horse was agitated, backing further into the corner. "Stay calm, boy," he soothed, but the tension was spiraling. One wrong move and Billy would bolt, leaving Timothy alone to face whatever storm was brewing outside. The hoofbeats grew closer. "Come on, Tim. We're not here to hurt you. Just want to chat." Colton's laughter echoed, infuriating and dismissive. The barn door creaked open and Charlotte Abbott stepped inside, her breath catching in her throat. Dust motes floated in the slanting light, a haunting reminder of what had once been, a thriving ranch full of life. Now it was just her and a wild horse named Rusty, alone in a dying valley. "You know it ain't safe out there," she said, glancing over her shoulder as if the shadows might answer. Rusty stood in the far corner, his eyes wide and anxious. He backed away as she took a step closer, the sharp scent of sweat and fear filling the small space between them. "It's okay, boy," she murmured, her hand reaching out slowly. "I'm not here to hurt you." Just then, a loud crash sounded from outside. Charlotte's heart raced. "Show yourself!" she called, gripping her rifle tightly. She knew trouble was close. She could sense it in the air. Rusty shuffled, his hooves scraping against the wooden floor, and she felt a twinge of panic in her chest. "Don't run! Please don't run!" Rusty snorted, shaking his head, eyes darting to the door as if sensing the threat before she did. In that moment, she realized he was just as scared as she was. "I reckon we both need each other," she whispered. "I just need you to trust me." But trust was a fragile thing. Just last week, Charlotte had dared to show vulnerability to the townsfolk. The scorn in their eyes had burned like a brand. They thought she was just some fool chasing a dream. "This ranch ain't worth saving, Charlotte," they yelled. "You're just a woman playing farmer." But she wasn't playing. Every day was a battle against the creeping despair that clung to the valley like the dust on her boots. And now, The stakes had never been higher. A developer named Wade Connors was circling like a hawk, ready to take the land for himself, ready to tear it all down. "I won't let him take this from us," she vowed, looking back at Rusty. "Not without a fight!" Rusty stepped forward, the warmth of his muzzle brushing against her palm. For a heartbeat, she felt a connection, a flicker of hope. "You see, we can do this together," she said softly. It was a small victory, but it felt monumental. She had to hold on to that feeling, even as uncertainty loomed like a storm cloud. A gust of wind rattled the barn doors, and Charlotte's heart sank. "They're coming for us," she muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. Then, everything shifted. Rusty moved restlessly, and she could feel the tension building in the air. Suddenly, there were voices outside, men laughing, their heavy boots crunching on gravel. "Heard she's got a horse worth taking," one called out. Charlotte's pulse quickened. "We've got to go, Rusty," she urged, her voice shaking. "Now!" But the horse didn't budge, his gaze fixed on the door. His trust wavered as he sensed the danger creeping closer. "No," she begged. "Don't leave me. Please don't leave." Rusty snorted again, this time more forcefully, and for a moment the world outside faded. Her hand found his neck, rough but warm under her touch. "Please, Rusty, you have to trust me. I can't do this alone." The barn door swung open. Charlotte Abbott's hand moved to her rifle, her heart racing. "Show yourself," she called, scanning the dim interior filled with shadows and dust motes. The air smelled of hay and sweat, the familiar scent of her refuge, but the unease gnawed at her gut like a hungry wolf. In the corner, the wild horse she had come to call Rusty backed away, eyes wide and fearful. "It's just me, boy," Charlotte coaxed, lowering her weapon. She took a slow step forward, palms outstretched, trying to ease his fear. "You know me." Rusty's nostrils flared, and his muscles tensed as he shifted further back, pressing against the wooden wall. One wrong move, and he'd bolt, or worse. The memories of the last few weeks flooded back. "I ain't here to hurt you," she murmured, fighting her own rising panic. "We're in this together." The silence was thick, punctuated only by the creaking of the barn settling and the distant sound of wind rustling outside. Charlotte inhaled deeply, grounding herself in the moment. She remembered the first time she had met him, the day she'd rescued him from that cruel auction. "You've got to trust me, Rusty," she pleaded, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've lost so much already. I can't lose you, too." Rusty hesitated, his intelligent eyes searching hers for sincerity. Then, ever so cautiously, he took a step forward, his massive body relaxing slightly. Charlotte felt a flutter of hope. "That's it. See? Just us now." She reached out, fingertips brushing against his soft muzzle, feeling the warmth beneath his coat. His breath came out in soft huffs, and for a moment, the world around them faded away. "Damn it," she muttered, her resolve wavering. "I'm not cut out for this. What do I know about horses?" But deep down, she knew she had to try. She took a chance, pushing her doubts aside. "Maybe I'm not alone after all. Maybe you're the one who can help me find my way." Rusty stepped closer, nearly nudging her shoulder, his trust slowly building like the swelling tide. Charlotte chuckled softly. "See, you do like me a little." She stroked his neck, savoring the connection they were forging. The bond between them felt fragile, but it was there, a thread woven from shared pain and longing for redemption. Then a sound echoed outside, shouting, men's voices approaching fast. Charlotte's heart sank. Her hand instinctively tightened around the rifle. "They're back!" She glanced toward the barn door, dread pooling in her stomach. "We don't have much time." Rusty flared his nostrils again, sensing the rising tension. He whinnied low, a sound that reverberated through the barn's walls. "Stay calm, boy. Just stay with me." she whispered, frustration creeping in. "If they find you here, it'll be over." "Charlotte," a voice called from outside, thick with authority. "Open up, we know you're in there." She clenched her jaw. It was Tom Hackett, the greedy rancher who wanted her land, and he wouldn't stop until he got it. "What the hell do they want now?" she muttered, her mind racing. How could she protect Rusty and herself? The barn door swung open, and Charlotte Abbott stepped inside, heart racing. "Billy?" she called, her voice trembling. The stall was quiet, except for the faint rustle of hay beneath her boots. She moved deeper into the dim light, the musty scent of the barn filling her nostrils, mingling with something wild and untamed. Billy stood in the far corner, his powerful frame tense, muscles rippling beneath his coat. His dark eyes were wide, filled with an intelligence that made Charlotte's heart ache. "Easy there, boy," she said softly, stepping closer. But the horse backed away, hooves scraping against the rough wooden slats. "I ain't gonna hurt you." She wanted to trust, but trust had burned her before, both in people and in her own choices. A wave of doubt washed over her as she extended a trembling hand, palm open. "Come on, I'm just here to help." The wind howled outside, rattling the barn's worn walls. Billy's breath came in quick bursts, and Charlotte could see the wildness in his posture. One wrong move and he'd bolt, or worse. She inhaled deeply, tasting the dust and leather that clung to her skin like her worries. "This land, it's been hard on both of us," she whispered, "but I need you to trust me." "Why won't you let me in?" she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. He seemed to ponder her words, his ears flicking toward her as if he could understand. "I know you've had it rough, but so have I. We can face it together." Slowly, Charlotte took another step forward. Then, the barn creaked ominously, and Billy tensed again. Charlotte caught the movement and froze. "What is it, boy? What's out there?" A shadow shifted just beyond the barn door, and her heart dropped. "No!" she breathed, recalling the rumors of the local ranchers, greedy men looking to snatch up what little she had left. A gust of wind swept through the cracks, sending a shiver down her spine. She tightened her grip on the rope in her hand, the rough fibers digging into her palm. "Stay close," she commanded, stepping toward the door with resolve. Billy whinnied, his eyes wide, but Charlotte pressed on, fueled by determination. She swung the door open, revealing a sun-soaked landscape obscured by the swirling dust. But it wasn't the sun that caught her attention. A group of men on horseback approached, their figures sharp against the horizon, dust swirling in their wake. "They're coming!" she hissed, heart pounding like a drum. "I knew they'd try to take it from me." Billy moved closer, nostrils flaring as he sensed her rising fear. "I can't let them do this," she whispered. "I won't give up without a fight." She felt the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders, an old dream, a family legacy, all at stake. "Hold on, Billy. I need you now." The horse stepped forward, nudging her shoulder gently. His soft muzzle brushed against her cheek, grounding her in the moment. The connection between them surged, a flicker of hope in the darkening situation. "Let's show 'em what we've got." The barn door creaked open, and Timothy stepped inside, heart pounding. "Billy!" he called, scanning the dark corners for his paint horse. The air hung thick with dust and the unmistakable scent of hay, but there was something else. Fear. Billy whinnied, a sound laced with urgency. Timothy hurried toward the corral. "What's wrong, boy?" he asked, reaching out to calm him. Billy backed away, his eyes wide and wild. "Easy now," Timothy said, stepping into the corral, hands raised. "I'm not going to hurt you. Just need to figure this out together." Timothy remembered the threats hanging over them. Mountain Crest was growing more aggressive, and the recent fire had left him feeling vulnerable. He'd watched his father fight, and he was determined to carry on that legacy, but the weight of it was heavy. He needed Billy's trust, needed it more than ever. "Come on, boy," he murmured. "Trust me." As he reached out, Billy took a hesitant step forward, nostrils flaring. The horse nuzzled Timothy's palm, and for a moment, all the noise of the outside world faded. "That's it," Timothy whispered, feeling a flicker of hope. "We'll figure this out." But then the moment shattered. Outside, a distant rumble filled the air. Timothy froze. "What was that?" he muttered, gripping the fence. The barn smelled of sweat and leather as he moved toward the door, senses on high alert. He could hear hoofbeats, rapid and heavy, growing louder. "Billy, stay close," he ordered, worry creeping into his voice. The paint horse shifted nervously, ears pinned back. Timothy's mind raced. Could it be Mountain Crest's men? Or worse, someone sent to intimidate him. He held his breath, straining to listen. There it was again, a shout, followed by the sharp crack of a whip cutting through the silence. "Timothy!" a voice echoed from outside. It was Sheriff Bradshaw, urgency in every syllable. "You best get out here. We got trouble." The world outside spun with the chaos of imminent danger. Timothy's heart raced as he turned to Billy, who still seemed restless. "I can't leave you, buddy," he said, reaching out to the horse. "But I can't ignore this either." The barn door rattled in the wind, and Timothy felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. With every passing second, the tension in the air grew thick. "I need you to stay right here," he urged Billy, though doubt tinged his words. With a deep breath, he stepped outside. Dust swirled beneath his boots as he scanned the horizon. What he saw made his blood run cold. 6 riders approached, their silhouettes dark against the setting sun. Timothy felt his heart drop. "Not now, please," he murmured, glancing back at the barn where Billy stood waiting, calm but watchful. "Sheriff," Timothy yelled, waving as the riders drew closer. He could make out their faces, grins that dripped with malice. Tom Hackett's crew, thugs for hire, intent on intimidation. "What do you want?" Timothy's voice cracked, fear clawing at his chest. One of the riders pulled ahead, smirking. The barn door creaked as Charlotte pushed it open. The scent of leather and hay hit her hard, mingling with the dust that floated in the late afternoon light. "You're the only one left, Rusty," she murmured, stepping inside. Rusty stood at the far end of his stall, eyes wide and wary. "Come on, boy," Charlotte coaxed softly, feeling her heart pound. "I ain't gonna hurt you." She extended a hand, palm up, hoping he'd take a step closer. He whinnied, shifting nervously. "The world's just trying to make fools of us both, ain't it?" she said, the weight of her own doubts pressing on her shoulders. Rusty backed away, hooves clattering on the wooden floor. "No, please. I need you." Her heart sank. Trust had become a foreign concept for her, a lesson taught too many times. "You've been through hell, too," she pleaded. "I get it, I do." As if understanding her words, Rusty flicked his ears forward, the tension in his body easing just a bit. She took a cautious step forward, hoping to close the distance. The barn was silent except for the creaking wood and the gentle sound of hay shifting under her boots. "The ranch is falling apart," she whispered, brushing her fingers along the rough wood of the stall. "I don't know how to fix it, but maybe you do." Rusty's nostrils flared as he sniffed the air, and for a moment she dared to hope. Then came the sound of hoofbeats, menacing and purposeful. Charlotte's breath caught in her throat. "No, not now," she muttered, glancing toward the doorway. "I can't lose everything." She listened hard, the pounding of her heart matching the rhythm of those approaching footsteps. The sound grew louder, echoing in her mind like an impending storm. "Rusty, stay," she commanded, steeling her resolve. "I'll handle this. Just trust me." But trust was a tricky thing, like a wild mare ready to bolt at the first sign of danger. Rusty eyed her with uncertainty, and she felt a wave of sadness wash over her. He wasn't just a horse. He was her last chance. "Show me what to do," she said, reaching for the halter that hung on the wall. "We can't let them take us from each other." Rusty seemed to hesitate, his intelligent eyes searching hers as if weighing the strength of her determination against his fear. And then he took a step closer, his breath warm against her cheek. "That's it, boy," she whispered, her heart swelling. "Together we can make it through." But just as she felt a spark of hope, the unmistakable sound of men laughing echoed through the air. "This place ain't got a prayer," a voice shouted, crude and mocking. "Let's give it a proper send-off." Charlotte's heart plummeted. They were coming for her, and all she had was a horse who didn't yet trust her. The stakes were rising, and the danger loomed like the dark clouds rolling in over the hills. "Rusty, we need to hide. Now," she urged, pulling him gently toward the back of the barn. But he hesitated, his instincts warning him of the threat. She felt the panic rise in her chest. "Trust me, please." The barn door swung open, sending a flurry of dust into the air. "Billy!" Timothy shouted, heart racing as he scanned the empty stalls. "Where are you, buddy?" The silence pressed heavily against him, and an uneasy feeling gnawed at his gut. Timothy pushed past the hay bales, the scent of aged leather and horses filling his lungs. The familiar creaks of the barn echoed around him, mixing with the distant sound of wind rustling through the dry grass outside. "This ain't funny," he muttered, fear creeping in. Where could that paint horse have wandered off to? He felt the weight of the world pressing down on him. Mountain Crest was more than just a threat. They were a looming shadow over his hope for redemption. Timothy's thoughts drifted to his father's letter. Trust the horse, trust the land, his father had written, but with each passing day, it grew harder to hold on to that belief. "Billy!" he called again, desperation edging his voice. Just then, he heard a soft whinny from outside. Timothy's heart leaped. He dashed to the barn doors, pulling them wide. Billy stood at the edge of the pasture, his coat shining like polished silver under the sun. The horse looked back, ears perked, an intensity in his eyes that made Timothy pause. "What's gotten into you?" he asked, walking over. Billy nuzzled Timothy's chest, seeking comfort, or perhaps offering it. "You scared me, you know that," Timothy said, running his fingers through Billy's mane. The connection felt electric, just like it always had. But the moment was fleeting. Off in the distance, he spotted dark clouds rolling in, ominous and heavy. "Storm's coming," he whispered to Billy. "We need to get ready." A knot formed in his stomach. The thought of another crisis, another battle against nature, sent chills down his spine. The sky darkened, mirroring the heaviness in his heart. He needed to find a way to secure the aquifer, ensure everyone in the valley knew about it before Mountain Crest could make their move. But how could he fight against such powerful forces while managing his own despair? "Damn it," he muttered under his breath. Billy stomped a hoof, as if sensing Timothy's turmoil. I know, he said, stepping back from the horse, trying to shake off the anxiety. "We can't let them win." Timothy turned toward the open field, a flicker of determination igniting within him. The ranch was his, and he'd be damned if he lost it. "Let's head back inside," he said, giving Billy a gentle pat on the neck. "We'll come up with a plan." But just as he turned, a shadow caught his eye. Dark figures emerged from the tree line, riders, at least 6 of them, coming fast. Timothy's heart dropped, and he felt the familiar rush of adrenaline. "Get behind me, boy," he commanded, moving instinctively to shield Billy. Fear twisted inside him like a wild mustang. He had no idea who these riders were or what they wanted. Billy whinnied, shifting nervously, and Timothy's pulse quickened. The sun had barely dipped behind the Brimstone Range, casting long shadows across the Anderson Ranch. Timothy stood in the canyon, watching the water gushing from the new well like a river of hope. "Can you believe it, Billy?" he murmured, the excitement bubbling in his chest. We did it, boy. We found the water. Billy nickered softly, stepping closer, his coat glimmering in the fading light. Timothy reached out, running his fingers through the thick mane, feeling the heat radiating from the horse's powerful body. I never thought I'd see this day, he continued, overwhelmed by the weight of the moment. Everything's changing, and it's all because of you. The horse turned his head, resting it against Timothy's shoulder. It felt like a warm embrace, grounding him amid the chaos swirling in his mind. The valley had begun to revive, but every green blade of grass also reminded Timothy of the fights still to come. Mountain Crest won't give up easy, he sighed. We're not out of the woods yet. Billy's eyes sparkled with understanding, as if saying, we'll face it together. But a flicker of doubt crept into Timothy's heart. He could feel the weight of the struggle ahead, losses already felt in the community, and the scars of betrayal still fresh in his memory. What if they come back? What if they try to take it all away? As if sensing his turmoil, Billy nuzzled his shoulder, urging him to stay grounded. I want to believe we can protect it, Timothy said, voice low. But every time I think we've won, they find another way to strike. I can't let this land fall into their hands. The wind picked up, stirring the dry dust at their feet, an echo of the valley's former glory. Each gust of wind carried the faint scent of hay and earth, mingling with the rich, wet smell of the freshly tapped aquifer. It was a heady mix that stirred hope and worry alike. Suddenly, the distant rumble of hooves broke the serenity. Timothy's heart raced. He turned, squinting into the sunset, scanning the horizon. Did you hear that, Billy? He whispered. Sounds like trouble. Billy's ears perked up, and he shifted nervously. Timothy felt the tension rising as the sounds of approaching riders grew closer. This isn't good, he muttered under his breath. What if it's Mountain Crest, or worse? What if they bring a fight? He took a step toward the barn, readying himself. We need to be prepared, he said, his heart pounding in sync with the hoofbeats echoing through the valley. They won't take this land without a fight. Billy backed up a step, eyes wide, sensing Timothy's growing fear. Easy, boy, he soothed, reaching out to calm the horse. I won't let anything happen to you. But would he be able to protect the ranch, protect Billy? The questions gnawed at him, and he could feel the walls of uncertainty closing in. They're coming for us, he muttered, grit in his voice. And I can't back down now, not after everything we fought for. The barn door swung open. Timothy's heart raced as he stepped inside, the familiar scent of hay and leather hitting him like a wave. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows across the dusty floor. Billy stood in the corner, his large, dark eyes watching him intently. Hey there, boy, Timothy said softly, crossing the space with measured steps. I reckon it's just you and me now. Billy nuzzled against him, his soft muzzle brushing against Timothy's cheek. It felt like a balm for his weary soul, but doubt gnawed at him. What if I can't keep this place going? What if I let you down? He ran a hand along Billy's neck, feeling the powerful muscle beneath the coat. Dad believed in this land, believed in you. Maybe I'm just a fool for thinking I can make it right. Billy stamped a hoof, tossing his head as if to say, Quit your fretting. Timothy chuckled despite himself, wiping the sweat from his brow. You're right. I need to listen better. But the darkness outside seemed to creep closer. The thought of Mountain Crest and their relentless pursuit loomed like a storm cloud over him. If they found out about the water, they'd stop at nothing to take it from him. The once quiet valley had turned into a battleground, and he was caught in the crossfire. He could almost hear Richard Colton's voice sneering, You'll regret holding on to that ranch. Timothy took a deep breath, letting the smell of hay fill his lungs. But I won't let you take it. The air was thick with the weight of his decision. As he paced the barn, Timothy's thoughts spiraled. He'd fought for this land, but was that enough? He felt like a lone wolf, howling into the night, desperate for someone, anyone to hear him. "Billy," he whispered, leaning against the stable wall, "am I doing the right thing?" The horse gazed back, calm and steady. Timothy reached out, feeling the warmth radiating from his companion. "You trust me, don't you?" Billy nudged him again, grounding him in the moment. That single act, so simple yet profound, made Timothy feel like he wasn't alone in this fight. But the shadows at the barn door worried at him. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. "I'll protect you," he promised, looking deep into Billy's eyes. "Just like I'll protect this ranch." Yet as the wind howled outside, Timothy felt a chill creep into his bones. The foreboding sense that their troubles were only beginning weighed heavy on his heart. Then came the sound of a distant engine, cutting through the stillness of dusk. Timothy's stomach tightened. "What now?" he muttered. He rushed outside, the gravel crunching underfoot. As he squinted into the gathering darkness, he saw headlights approaching fast, cutting through the shadows like a knife. "They're back!" he hissed under his breath. His hand instinctively brushed against the rifle slung over his shoulder. "Billy, stay close." The barn felt like a sanctuary, but he knew it could easily turn into a trap. Billy whinnied softly, and Timothy turned back to him, eyes wide. "You feel it too, don't you?" Anna stands at the barn door, watching the 3 Mustangs graze in the evening light. The gray, Storm, lifts his head, ears pricked forward. For the first time, he doesn't flinch when she moves. She smiles, feeling the rope in her hands. Tomorrow, they'll try the halter. But tonight, trust is enough.